Beneath a London construction site, the drilling stops. Archaeologists have found something the machines were never meant to hit. Beneath the wooden coffins, stacked in layers, holding victims from 350 years ago. The end rare. In London, happened again and again, the drukt keet interrupten drillend. The story starts around 4th AD, when Roman soldiers reach a wide, muddy river called the Thames. They choose this dead spot for rain, as the lowest point where the river can be bridged and controlled. A London Londinium, Wahideki, it grows a busy trading town with dams. But just over a decade later, the war strikes. A nave clam and boo, Lee Rival ams Rome, for warriors burn Londinium to ashes. Nearly 2,000 years later, archaeologists still find that exact layer of red ash beneath the city. Rome rebuilds the city, stronger this time, behind a defensive stone wall 3 miles long and 20 feet high. For over 300 years, Londinium thrives as the capital of Roman Britain, until Rome itself begins to weaken. By the early 1400s, the Roman legions are gone, and the city left to decline and fade into ruin. Dangerous pass. London rise again as a medieval city, cramped, crowded, and built almost entirely from timber. By 1855, London as a city roughly 600,000 people, about to face its deadliest year. The bubonic plague sweeps through cat streets, path by thieves, these path rats. Officially, around 68,000 people die, but researchers believe the true number was closer to 100,000. Bodies are buried publicly in mass graves later called plague pits, dug into open fields at the edge of the city. Today, those same fields are some of London's most familiar public spaces, including Green Park. In 2013, Cooper's building Crossrail line uncovered dozens of plague skeletons at Charles Bar. Scientists could still detect traces of plague DNA in the bones, a direct link to that one catastrophic year. Exactly 1 year later, in September 1666, disaster strikes again. This time isn't disease, it's fire. It begins just after midnight, in a bakery on Pudding Lane, owned by a man named Thomas Farina. Spark from the ovens catches, and within hours, the fire spreads to the tightly packed timber houses next door. The city's Lord Mayor is slow to act. By the time he orders buildings demolished to stop the flames, it's already too late. Fanned by strong winds and a long, dry summer, the fire becomes an uncontrollable firestorm. Over 4 days, it destroyed roughly 80% of the walled city, 13,000 homes, in Old St. Paul's Cathedral. An estimated 100,000 people are left homeless overnight. Officially, only 6 people are recorded as having died. The monument built to commemorate the fire even calls it harmless to their lives, but may storing at number. Argane body suben entirely by the flames was simply ne'er counted. It took nearly 50 years to fully rebuild London, and the fire permanently reshaped the layout of the city's streets. Nearly 3 centuries later, London faces its next great catastrophe, not fire from a bakery, but fire from the sky. On September 7, 1940, Nazi Germany begins a sustained bombing campaign against London, known as the Blitz. The very first night of raids alone leaves 430 people dead and over 1,600 injured. With nowhere else to hide, tens of thousands of Londoners flee underground, into the tones of the Chew. Over 150,000 people, 4% of the city's population, sleep in these stations nearly every night. With toes aren't always safe. Our toe for Heath, though it hand on Vollen station kills flexe people. 3 months later, Bend station has a direct out too. 111 people are killed. In March 1943, tragedy trace a different way. A crush of pint crowds at Bethel Rinse, I the wall end, On 30,000 Londoners have been killed by bombs and rockets. And yet, the lead evades, rebuilding health once again, just idly hers. Today, London is one of the most excavated cities on earth, because you can't build anything here without disturbing the past. Every new tube line, every new hospital, every new foundation dug into the ground is preceded by archaeologists, not developers. Elizabeth-lined London uncovered Roman gold, medieval ice skates, and the plague victims buried in Liverpool Sea. Ford in disasters, several the centuries, rebuying, a plague, a fire, and a war. And every single one its markings and was never rebuilt for threat. It rebuilt on top of a king who, again and again, Rudai wax 3 pain, isn't a hing's whale. It's dodging 2,000 years is rile. But archaeologists know the truth. This city was never really finished being built. London was never rebuilt. It just kept going, standing quietly into its own path.